Mayhem awaits. Welcome to Mellow and Vibe with me, your host, Oscar Reedlin. This is episode 35, and of course, on this very episode, we are going to talk more about wrestling, the craft and creation of the wrestling universe. Yes, welcome one, welcome all to that show, Mellow and Vibe, where we chat and chinwag. Let me talk to you, hell to the yes, about the madness, the mayhem, and the creation bliss, the things we love and treasure and most certainly care for. And this is another episode 35 on the wrestling universe. Last time we spoke about WWE on Netflix, the WWE Netflix era. We spoke about TNA, we spoke about AEW, WCW, WWF and ECW, and we also spoke about quite a few independent wrestling companies. Now, the thing is, I remember and I miss it, the memories that you may have too if you are a genuine, true wrestling fan. Back in the day, heading down to your local working men's club or your local club or somewhere close by. Maybe you had to travel, because sometimes we had to travel as well. But you get there and it's a wrestling show, a live independent wrestling show, and you are ready to rock and roll. Many of these I attended with my father, and many of these we sat right there, front row, ringside. Holy hell. And of course, these very tickets back in the day did not cost a few hundred or even a few thousand coins, because they were independent. They were only a few. Very affordable, very epic, very awesome, and they continue to emanate these wrestling shows this very day. Now, sadly, it has been quite a few years since I have partaken in a live wrestling event, because the last wrestling show I went to, I booked my tickets. It was at a Comic-Con. I believe I've mentioned this before. It was at a Comic-Con. I booked my tickets, paid extra to get there because of the wrestling, because I wished to see it live. It was in open air. We were ready to rock and roll, bringing the mayhem nice and early, enjoying the con, looking around, getting involved in my attire. The time was coming. The time was coming. The wrestling event, the live wrestling open air event was drawing closer. I followed the signs, and then when I got there, I spoke to someone and they said, oh yeah, due to weather conditions, it's cancelled the whole day, because they were supposed to be doing multiple shows. They were doing like one really early in the morning when I arrived, one later on, throughout the day, many wrestling shows. And that's when I discovered, when I spoke to somebody at the con, that the wrestling event had been cancelled. They'd called just shortly, not that long ago, and said, well, due to weather conditions, we can't perform the show, and because due to space issues inside of the con, because inside the Comic-Con all the space was utilised, all the space was used, the stalls, the cosplay, the guests, everything, the props, it was all taken, so there was nowhere for them to come in and set up the ring. That's why it was open air, because they had this big space that you could see when you arrived where it was going to be. But yeah, so that was like, I think that was last year, I do believe, maybe the year before, and that was the one of the times I was going to see it. But it has been many a year since I've seen a live wrestling show. But I remember growing up that I went to many many live wrestling shows, sitting front row, enjoying them. What was it? UKW, DPW, PCW, all these independent live wrestling shows, live wrestling companies were absolutely amazing. Was it OPW? There was a lot. There was so many independent wrestling companies, and I absolutely loved going to their shows as when I was younger, and just good times. And if you are one of those souls that attended live wrestling events, then speak it loud, speak it proud, and let me know. Leave a comment down below, your thoughts, feelings and opinions, and let me know how you felt, because I was a big fan. That's what drew me into wrestling. That's why I became a wrestler, and I wrestled for quite a few years, did quite a few shows. I was okay. I wasn't the best. I got the nickname Crash Test because I was always crashing and burning, and I was like thrown around that ring like a crash test dummy. I was very good to practice on, like, oh, come here, let me power bomb you, let me, give you a Samoan drop, let me hit you with a rock bottom. Like, okay, because I could take the bumps. I could feel them, of course, but yeah. It was good times. I miss those days. I wish I could go back to those days, because me training as a wrestler, meeting the people I did, the people that trained me. I even did a training session way back in the day with the ECW legend, that is Kevin Thorne. If you remember Kevin Thorne, holy hell, that is a true ECW legend. I did a training day with him, a couple of sessions, and that was, I've still got the poster somewhere. It's in storage somewhere. I've still got the poster because I signed up and I was like, I've got it and rock that, and I did, and that was absolutely insane. But yeah, I do miss those days. I wish I could go back to those days. I wish I could continue with those days. I stopped for life reasons, personal reasons. It was a twisted time, but I will forever be a true, pure wrestling fan. So if you've ever done anything like that, and become a wrestler, trained as a wrestler, or even are a wrestler, then yeah, rock it wild, speak it loud, speak it proud. Everybody leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, feelings and opinions about the creation bliss of wrestling, because here at Mellow and Vibe, that is what we love, that is what we enjoy, because it is beautiful, it is bliss, and wrestling fills us with hope and joy and good time vibes. That's why it's a wrestling universe, a wrestling community, because each and every one of us can come together and rock it wild. We can embrace the madness and the mayhem and this pure craft of the entertainment. It gives us so much. It makes us feel beautiful and bliss, and we love it, and that is how we will always and forever feel. And because there's so many types of wrestling, you've got your sort of standard OG ground and pound grapple wrestling, which is now known, I guess, as American wrestling or British wrestling or whatever style wrestling you want to call it, like the OG old school, like where they were doing this and grabbing the leg and because it's like grappling wrestling, because it was a lot of grappling, a lot of holds, submissions, takedowns, ground and pound, sort of OG original style wrestling. That's how if you go back into the day, I think it was 1923. I think 1923 is the oldest wrestling footage I have seen. It was on the interweb, and I did watch that, and it was quite interesting. There was a lot of ground and pound. There was not really any big lift up moves in this footage. If this was genuine footage, it seemed to be, but the powers of creation upon these days are mind-boggling, are insane. are beautiful and bliss, and anything and everything is possible. So it could have been. But yeah, there was no suplexes, no German suplexes, no power bombs, no, waistlock takeovers. Well, there was on the floor, like they were on the ground, like a waistlock, and then he'd bring him round, and there was no, DDTs or hip tossers or anything like that. Clotheslines, I don't think there was. It was very, very ground and pound, nitty gritty, like let me butcher's grip and give me some forearms and that sort of stuff. So it was that type of wrestling. But there's all kinds of wrestling. There's that style wrestling, like old school OG grapple, ground and pound wrestling. There's arm wrestling. There's even foot wrestling. There's the wrestling we know and love, which is the WWE wrestling, the TNA wrestling, the ECW wrestling, the AEW wrestling, like all the wrestling we know and love. Like I guess that is the normal style or the default wrestling, because that's what we know and love, with the clotheslines, the suplexes, the German suplexes, the wristlock takeovers, the gut wrenches, the Northern Lights, the wrist locks, and elbow drops, and just all this like rhythm and dance in sync, in harmony. That is the wrestling we know and love, because that is the WWE wrestling, that is the TNA wrestling, that is the AEW wrestling. That's all the style wrestling we know and love, and that was the ECW wrestling. But the ECW wrestling, as you most truly know, was more extreme and hardcore. So it was very vicious. So instead of an elbow drop, it was probably an elbow drop through a table that was riddled with barbed wire and thumbtacks. That's ECW for you. That is how it's done, and that is how they rocked it wild, because they were rocking it. They were bringing that mayhem. I absolutely loved me some ECW. I wish it would have continued. I wish it would have flowed on. And yeah, but all this style wrestling that you see today is the wrestling we know and love. Unless you are a fan of the ground and pound OG wrestling, because you can access that. There are networks. If I am correct, if I am not, please do let me know. But it is on the internet, the U of Tube, the Tube of You, that sort of place, where you can go and watch the American style, the British style, the OG ground and pound grapple wrestling, with the coaches and the circles and all that sort of stuff. And of course, how could I forget circles, grappling, sumo wrestling, which is a big honour and a big tradition, and that's been going on for eons. That's probably been, that was probably, when I say OG wrestling, that was probably the OG of the OG wrestling. Sumo wrestling was the OG of the OG wrestling, because that originated in the medieval period, like thousands of years ago, I do believe. My history on that is not accurate and correct, so please do not take that to heart. Do not quote me on that, but I do know that Japanese sumo wrestling has been around for so long, and it is an honour and a tradition. And I do know that a lot of the sumo wrestlers, if not all the sumo wrestlers, are treated like celebrities, and because they are, that's how they are, and they are honoured and respected, and they are, that's how they rock and roll, that's how they bring their mayhem. Even our wrestlers are treated like celebrities, because they are celebrities and they are idolised and worshipped, just like the sumo wrestlers. And of course, the sumo wrestling in Japan is more, I guess, in a way, tradition. It's honourable, it's respected. They are ceremonies where they, if I am correct, then I hope I am. If I'm not, please don't take it to heart. I'm not spitting these out like, yes, this is the way, this is what they are. I'd understand if I was, but I'm saying right here, right now, this information may not be accurate, and I do apologise if it's not accurate. I should have done more research. I know here at Mellow and Vibe, we are on it, we are rocking it wild, and we are very unpredictable and very unfiltered, and we just do as we do because this is the way, hell to the yes. But they do their traditions where they, spread the ring of water, and they've got this fan or whatever it is, like reefs, I think it is, that they're made out, and they do their chanting, and they got the salt and stuff, and it's their honour, their tradition, their sort of ceremony before each match. And I feel that each sumo wrestler has their own sort of tradition, their own sort of ceremony, their own praise and thoughts and good time feels. Because, it's been going for eons, it's been going for so long, and wrestling will go, as they say, then, now, forever. That's the WWE's motto, then, now, forever, because I feel genuinely the WWE is very accurate that wrestling will go on for so long, eternity. I mean, you never know, in the future we may have, as we've seen on many TV series and many shows, and in many games yet to come, because I have heard of a few announcements, that in the future we may have like cyber wrestling, like robotic wrestling, or even surrogate wrestling, where the people that are going to wrestle are in machines and they're controlling robotic surrogates. Like, in a sense, Real Steel, the movie with Hugh Jackman. I mean, I know that's more rock'em sock'em robots and that's more boxing, because it's not really wrestling, but it's more boxing. But like that, but wrestling. So like the wrestlers are in the machines and the robots and the surrogates are like clothesline and powerbomb. Because of course, if that, like Robot Wars, if you've ever seen Robot Wars, the legendary show Robot Wars, hell to the yes, if you've not seen that, search that right up. But yeah, I think wrestling will go on for eons. I think wrestling will go on deep into the future, because I'm a true fan, and I know the wrestling community, the wrestling universe is singing loud, singing proud, because the WWE Netflix era has just begun. They're bringing their mayhem, they're emanating their madness. And of course, as I've said, there's tons and tons of wrestling independent companies. I possess quite a few wrestling independent DVD, like premium live events, pay-per-views, shows, all that kind of stuff, because I'm a big fan and I want to see it all. Like, I know we honour and respect the big time companies, the ones up there like WWE, because they've never missed a day. They're always on it. Day one, what? Exactly, they're rocking it wild, and they're like the longest running, I guess, sports entertainment, all this, that and the other, because they have been on fire. Yes, they've had their ups and downs, and things have emanated forth about them under, we won't go into that information. If you know, you've seen the documentary, as have I. I may rewatch the documentary because it's very interesting, but yeah, it's a bit yeah, but now it's taken a different turn. The Netflix era is rocking wild, and of course it's bringing the mayhem and kicking some booty, and of course it's welcoming everybody truly is welcome. Come one, come all, because we've had some Hellfire legends make an appearance on there as of now, as of so far. And of course, sadly, the one I do not watch, but I should. I used to watch it back in the day, like the early days of NXT. Yes, like the early days of NXT, I used to watch back in the day, when a lot of wrestlers now, like, the Tribal Chief or the Seth frickin' Rollins, when they were back in NXT, I used to watch that. And of course, Bailey and oh, she's come a long way. I'm gonna say it. Mummy. Rhea Ripley. Yep, when Rhea Ripley, Mummy, before she was Mummy, when Rhea Ripley was on NXT, when, you know, all the OGs were on NXT. I've come a long way. We've come a long way. I used to watch NXT back in the day, but sadly I've not been watching modern day NXT, and now it is available to rock and roll. So I hopefully will jump back into modern day NXT, because I have heard it is hellfire, and Triple H, the King of Kings, the Cerebral Assassin, was promoting that quite some time, and I think, if I am correct, Shawn Michaels lives on NXT, because is he not the manager of NXT? Does he not run the show? Am I thinking wrong? Because I mean, I've seen him on commentary from time to time. I know Regal's rocking it wild. Is it Regal who owns NXT, like who manages NXT? I wish Regal would return to the ring. I used to love Regal. I mean, I still do. Regal is a legendary wrestler. One definitely not to be messed with. Like I always said back in the day when I was wrestling, if I had made it up to the big leagues, which sadly I did not. Still living the dream, never giving up hope. If I ever make it up to the big leagues and I debut on WWE or, you know, AEW, TNA, NXT, you know, that's where they all began. I would not wish to face William Regal whatsoever, because he is a dominant force. He is a brutal, he is vicious, he rocked it wild, and he brought his own mayhem. So yeah, I would not like to do that. If I did make it there, still staying hopeful, still living the dream. But yeah, I need to jump into NXT, because there's so much wrestling. And of course they did the live tours. There's the live tours that they did all around, you know, the world, all around the UK. What was it? Saudi Arabia and Las Vegas. And I think they went to, did they go to South Africa as well? They went all around the world touring. And of course, there's a lot of wrestling that's done in Vegas. There's a lot of independent wrestling shows in Vegas and LA, Los Angeles. There's a lot of independent wrestling there. I've got quite a few of those. There's a lot of British independent wrestling. Like they did have, I think, a UK Tough Enough that I remember watching, because they had a lot of those on there. They had a lot of weird ones on there, a lot of crazy ones on there. And I remember an episode where one of the wrestlers was late because he was at an all-you-can-eat buffet. He was like bulking up and getting ready, and he was hungry. And I think that was that run by Al Snow? Was Al Snow on that one, or am I thinking of something else? But I definitely remember a UK version of Tough Enough, because I loved the wrestling version of Tough Enough. Like they had Steve Austin, Booker T, did they have Kurt Angle on there? They had so many on there, so many legends on there that rocked it wild and brought that. I mean, Tough Enough was it. Oh, they had like Trish Stratus on there as well, and Mickey James, and I think they had the Glamours on there. It was absolutely insane. They had everybody on there. It was Tough Enough and hellfire. I mean, I watched Fighting with the Family, the true origin story of Paige, who rocked it wild, brought that mayhem. We were hoping Paige would make her return the WWE 2025 Royal Rumble match, and of course we were also hoping AJ Lee's music would hit and rock wild, but none of that happened. I mean, I really did wish for Paige to return at the Royal Rumble and rock it epically wild, but we know who stood victorious, who the winners of the Royal Rumble are. We know that. I mean, I won't give spoilers if you don't, but I have spoken about this before, and we know the winners. We know who rocked wild, and we know who won the Rumbles. Hellfire to the yes, but I was hoping that Paige would return. Listen to me, Raw! And of course, yeah. And speaking of, well, rock it wild there's plenty of wrestling movies, wrestling documentaries you can watch. There's the Backyard Wrestling documentary. We've not even got into that, so we might jump into that later on. Bit of backyard wrestling, bit of hardcore mayhem and carnage, and we can always revisit these style conversations, these style chinwags, because here at Mellow and Vibe we cover everything and we talk. Let me talk to you. We rock it wild and we bring that mayhem. And of course, you've got to speak it loud, speak it proud. Your thoughts, feelings and opinions matter. So anything you want to chat, chinwag, anything you want to hear henceforth, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you truly fancy elbow drop Shawn Michaels, like that subscribe button so you will be permanently sealed into history and you will never miss an episode. And of course that bell icon too, you've got to perhaps maybe switch in music, that bell icon, so you will never miss a Mellow and Vibe moment, because that is key and that is what we want. You don't want to miss a Mellow and Vibe moment, because they are bliss and they are beautiful. Yes indeed. Of course, many wrestling movies, Fighting with the Family, like I said, check that out if you've never seen that. That is beautiful. That is bliss. There's quite, what was it called? Was it called Capitol Hall or Capital City? What was it called? I need to get this right. I don't know. It had Danny Glover and John Cena in it. It was done a few years ago, and it was 09 or 2010. It was an origin story of a true wrestler that came up in the ranks of the old sort of school style, the ground and pound, the grapple sort of wrestling. Very good, very entertaining. And there was one as well that was about that. What was that? Was that called White Claw? That was the one with Steve Carell, and that was where he was a coach, and they were training the wrestlers in that style, the ground and pound, the old school sort of grapple style wrestling. That was really good. That was intense. That was powerful. So there's those movies. I will get the names. There's Iron Claw, which is legendary, about the Von Erichs. Holy hell, get that watched. That is a beautiful one. There's called Walk Like a Panther, which was a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed Walk Like a Panther. I need to watch that movie again, because Walk Like a Panther is a beautiful, blissful movie. There's so many. We can continue talking about wrestling and the wrestling universe for hours, but we will set it there. If you do wish to hear more wrestling chat and you want to know more, then please do let me know. Leave a comment down below, thoughts, feelings and opinions as you do so wish. Let me talk to you. We will indeed be chatting, chinwagging and rocking it wild yet again, because this has been Mellow and Vibe episode 35. Holy hell, how did we get here? How the hell did we get here? I've got no idea, but we're here. Woo-hoo, yeah baby. I have been your host, Oscar Riedling. As always, it has been truly an honour and a pleasure and a privilege. It is always an honour, a pleasure and a privilege to rock it wild and bring the mayhem with each and every one of you epic legends. It does indeed mean the world, and I will indeed return next for episode 36 of Mellow and Vibe. And of course, as I've said, I will say it yet again, you're probably sick of hearing it. If you've got any ideas, if you've got anything you genuinely want to see, you genuinely want to have a chinwag about, a nice chat, then please leave it down below. And of course, I will do some research and we will be back for some more Mellow and Vibe episode 36. Remember, mayhem does thou await.